Hello, everyone. Good evening. My name is Van, and I will be your host for tonight. I'm a chemical engineering senior here at Texas A&M at Qatar, class of 21. Before we begin, I would like to establish some ground rules just for the sake of keeping a good program up. One, as you can see on your upper left, the event is being recorded, so don't do anything I wouldn't do. Two, please keep your mic muted at all times to not interfere with the program. And three, when applauding a speaker or a reader, use the clapping emoji in the reactions tab. All right, let's start the night. Okay, on behalf of the Best Writing Committee, I welcome all of you to our very first virtual launch party for the 7th edition of Best Writing. Woo! Can I get a round of applause for our 7th edition? Okay, so what is Best Writing? Well, Best Writing is an edited anthology of student writing published annually by TAMUQ. And the theme for this year's edition is no other than connecting communities. Wow, connecting communities. Fun fact that you probably didn't know, we actually chose the theme before the lockdown hit. None of us from the community could have ever imagined the significance of the theme, especially to us, a learning community who are usually connected in so many ways within the classroom, the CTL, the library, clubs, student lounge, the hallway. Everywhere we are, we find community and we find connection. But for now, we are learning how to connect online, which is both daunting and new, and something that we will have to navigate together. Tonight, you will hear some reflections on this extraordinary time in our lives, as well as other original, deeply moving pieces during the readings by the authors portion of our evening together. And to kick us off, I would like to now introduce Dr. Cesar Malave, Dean of TAMUQ, for his welcoming remarks.
Thank you, Van. Thank you, again, welcome to everybody. I just have a few words, to say that, this is always a special night for me. I am one of those engineers that believe that a liberal education is very important to form a great engineer. I always tell people that, I used to take those tests that you take for personality, and it never came out that I should be an engineer, every time that I took one of those tests. And in part is because I believe that the technical knowledge is important, the scientific knowledge is important, but what makes a great engineer is the critical thinking, the communication skills, the ability to work well with others, and all that comes through the liberal education. And then inside that liberal education, being a great writer is something that is essential, again, not only to be a great engineer, but to be a great professional. And I have told this many times that you always said, look, if God comes down and say, okay, I'm going to grant you one skill that you don't have, that you would like to have, I would say the ability to be a great writer. I always struggle with this. Yeah, being a great writer, I've met people who are amazing, putting things what in their mind, okay, in a piece of paper and communicating that. I think it's an amazing ability, to be able to communicate in writing. Again, I just finished watching a couple of months ago the Hamilton, the play, and they said that Hamilton was an amazing writer. He was always writing. And when I observe people who are successful, they are incredible writers. They have a true remarkable ability to look at things, to think, to put thoughts together, and to put in a way that they can communicate it, well to others. So I love to see this. I love to see engineers, writing poetry, writing all the kinds of styles of writing. I love the poetry, by the way, the poetry part. So again, I'm looking forward to a wonderful night. We don't have a dinner. The dinner was a great part of this event too. But I promise you, I have a whole list of rain checks that as soon as we can get together, we will celebrate this and other events. So again, welcome. Thank you for having me. And I'm looking forward to a wonderful evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Dean Malavi, for those kind words. We might not have dinner, but we have food for thought. I now invite Dr. Ashfaq Bengali, Executive Director of the Center for Teaching and Learning, to speak.
Thank you, Van. And thank you to the students. I assume there are parents also joining us, faculty and staff, for attending tonight's virtual launch of the 7th edition of Best Writing. So tonight we celebrate both writing and those who contributed to this anthology. While I applaud the several faculty and staff members who wrote essays included in this Best Writing edition, I'd like to focus my remarks on the students. So when I was writing these introductory remarks, I was thinking, if I was asked, what's the first thing that comes to your mind when I know that a student is majoring in a STEM discipline? So the first thought, at least for me, is that they must have excellent technical or quantitative skills. They must be good at math, physics, engineering, but you don't immediately think that they must also be excellent writers. And the anthology we are celebrating today, however, provides proof certain that in addition to possessing excellent technical abilities, our students are also accomplished writers. And this is how it should be. Texas A&M University at Qatar cannot achieve its stated goal of graduating exemplary engineers without providing our students with the necessary resources and opportunities to develop their written communication skills. And so why is writing an important skill for an engineer? If you read about the importance of writing in a STEM field, most often you'll find that the arguments are phrased in terms of developing an ability to communicate difficult technical concepts to diverse audiences and getting your ideas and thoughts across in a clear and effective manner. So I don't dispute this argument. I don't think anyone could. However, to my mind, the value of writing in an academic setting is more elementary. And it is simply that writing cements learning. Writing well helps students achieve higher levels of understanding about subject matter. On a personal level, if you ask me to think about an issue, my mind will be buzzing with thoughts and ideas, and I'll do my best to verbalize a coherent response, especially if it's a Tuesday. But if you ask me to write about the same issue, that's when my neurons really start firing. Writing forces me to make the right kinds of connections between disparate thoughts so that I am able to distill the arguments related to the issue in a concise, interconnected, and thoughtful manner. The mere act of putting pen to paper forces cognitive discipline. It allows you, and importantly others who will read your writing, to see the value of your thoughts expressed in words. Once you become good at writing, it becomes a habit of the mind, and the positive consequences spill over into verbal communication as well. In professional settings, you choose your words carefully and articulate your thoughts in an organized and concise manner. And it is for these reasons that writing skills are weaved throughout the engineering curriculum at Texas A&M. And today you see the results. But there's another reason why I personally enjoy reading the stories in this compilation. As faculty, our interactions with students are mostly limited to the classroom. So our perception of student abilities and interests, it's mostly one-dimensional, it's all academic. And reading some of the stories in Best Writing humanizes our students so that we don't just view them as brains waiting to be filled with knowledge. As faculty, we can be better teachers and mentors to our students if we understand their life stories and experiences, if we understand what motivates them and what experiences they find value in. Best Writing helps us reach this level of understanding about our students and allows us to meet students where they are rather than where we think they should be. For example, Yara Al-Ghazar's honest and courageous piece on dealing with her health challenges and using her experience to develop grit and resilience shows a side of her that would not normally be apparent to a faculty member who had Yara in their class. Yet I ask you, wouldn't a faculty member's engagement with Yara be positively informed by her story? Absolutely it would. And there are many such stories in this book that our teaching and learning community can benefit from. Finally, I'd like to thank Dr. Rudd and Dr. Hodges for their hard work and dedication in organizing and spearheading this Festival of Student Voices in Writing over the past several years. Their investment in and commitment to student success is a lesson for all. Thanks.
I couldn't agree more, Dr. Bengali. Thank you for that insightful remark. I now invite the co-editor of Best Writing, Dr. Mysti Rudd, to speak. You're on mute, Dr. Mysti.
Thank you. That is the most common phrase during this pandemic. I'm writing down what Dr. Bengali said. I love that, Festival of Student Voices. So I'm gonna use that. I'm gonna borrow that from you. So this is our 7th volume of Best Writing. And we're proud of each and every volume. We don't like one child more than the other, but I always at at this evening, I like to talk to you about origin stories a little bit. And so as I was reflecting tonight on how best writing started, it really started from two qualities that I'm not that proud to brag about, but it was envy and greed. Okay, so but let me explain a little bit. The envy came from my first semester here, and I saw this beautiful compilation that Cornell had published for their students. And I'm like, if they have that, why don't we have that? We have more students than they do. We could certainly have something like that. So that's the envy part, which is, it's motivating. And the greed part is really guilt about feeling greedy. Because as an English teacher, I get to see pieces like this. I get to see these stories and these drafts. And sometimes I think of them as like cookies in the oven. I get to see, not the students, the pieces of writing, okay? And I get to see them baking, and I get to see them come out, and I get to see how proud the students are of their writing. And I felt greedy that I was the only one seeing some of these things. And I knew after that first semester here, how talented our students are, just like Dr. Almajdoubeh and Dr. Bengali have been saying. And that first best writing launch party, when a mother came up to me and said, thank you so much for having this publication, because before my daughter was a TAMUQ engineering student, she was a writer, and now she can be both. And so I always remember that, and I love that. When I call someone a poet engineer, which I love to do, it doesn't necessarily mean that you write down poetry, but it means that the students here who really understand the power of, I want to say the written word, but it's not just the written word, it's a spoken word too. So the power of words, students who recognize that and carefully choose that, they're poet engineers. That's my definition of that. This year was unusual. It was kind of like the first year in that I was worried we wouldn't get enough submissions. The first year of best writing, I thought we were going to have to bribe students. Like if you submit a piece for publication, then you can be in a raffle to win an iPad or an iPad Air. No, they didn't have that then. Mini iPad, that was the thing back then. And we really didn't need that because students came through. Because as I've said many times, and you can read it in the long-winded introduction I wrote this year, that it takes guts and courage to share your writing beyond your friends, your family, the peers in your classroom. It takes so much courage. There's a vulnerability in that. And so I'm always proud of the students' courage. And this year was kind of extraordinary because of the going online in March. And our deadline was in March. And so what I always like to have a best writing studio series for students, and only 2 students came this year, right? So I was like, what's going on? And the thing is, because our students are so diligent about their coursework, that was on the front burner. This extra stuff, best writing, they couldn't deal with it. They didn't have enough time to polish the pieces and get them to a place where they were proud to submit them. And so we gave them extra time, and that turned out to be a good thing. And then they came through, and part of this, and we have, I think, the largest book ever, right, in terms of number of pages. And I always blame that on Dr. Amy, whom this volume is dedicated to. And maybe I'll read part of that dedication. You can also read it too. It's in the introductory material. And here's what we said about Dr. Amy. From the first volume published in 2014 to the 7th volume, no one has championed student voices at TAMUQ more than Dr. Amy. She's exemplified the ethics of inclusiveness, the spirit of advocacy, and the patience that comes with understanding that learning to write is a longitudinal journey for all of us. Dr. Amy has taught us that the only acceptable definition of a good writer is one who keeps trying. And for that, as well as many other her gifts of time and love that she shared with us throughout the years, we are eternally grateful. One of the things about Dr. Amy that I miss and love is that anybody who came to her for writing help, whether you were her peer, me, her colleague, or a graduate student or an undergraduate student or a staff member, she found a way to help you and give some feedback. I don't know how she had more hours in the day than the rest of us, but somehow she did. I also want to give a shout out to staff this year because for two reasons. One is when the students didn't come to the Best Writing series, staff did. And then they kept coming and they go, let's have another one. Let's have another one. And so there are more staff pieces this year than there usually are. And here's the thing, in this time when we've gone from face-to-face and being in the building, which I'm in the building now, to online, you know who helped us? I'm just gonna say the most in keeping our community connected, it's staff. Staff did this. And so I just really think that this is a time to honor them and have a place for their writing. And I hope you read all of their pieces because it gives you a perspective and a glimpse. Just like Dr. Bengali was saying, we see students in a certain way. We see staff in a certain way too. And so reading their pieces opens up the world. And I hope you read all those pieces. The last thing I want to do, I think, is read to you. This is a book from Natalie Goldberg called The True Secret of Writing. That's supposed to be tongue-in-cheek. If there were just a little secret, we wouldn't take English 104, okay? But Natalie this is actually in the goodie bag. If you didn't pick up your goodie bag, I've got a bunch in my office. So if you're here tonight, you could probably get a goodie bag. And here's what Natalie Goldberg says. Writing is for everyone, like eating and sleeping. Buddha said sleep is the greatest pleasure. We don't often think of sleep like that. It seems so ordinary. But those who have sleepless nights know the deep satisfaction of sleep. The same is true of writing. We think of it as no big deal, we who are lucky to be literate. Slaves were forbidden to learn to read or write. Slave owners were afraid to think of these people as human. To read and to write is to be empowered. No shackle can ultimately hold you. And so I'm so happy that you're all here. And I really, I hope you enjoy listening for the voices of our students, our staff, and also listening between the lines. Thank you so much for coming.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Mysti, for those great words. About that, I guess Dr. Amy hasn't left us entirely. She has a video for us that we are going to watch.
Hello to all my TAMIQ family. I miss you all and wish I could be there with you today. I'm so proud of all the writers and photographers and committee members who came together to create this edition of Best Writing. Over the past few years, not to mention the past few months, our world has undergone great changes. One of the things I always appreciated about TAMIQ were the global perspectives of the people in it. I could always find someone to talk with me to share their stories about Syria, Yemen, Kashmir. Stories about the great things your cultures achieved, and stories about seeing your culture disintegrating before your eyes. Stories about growing up a third culture kid, about feeling like you didn't have a home, feeling like you found one. Stories about learning Arabic and Turkish and Japanese and Urdu, and of course the many complicated stories about learning English. The thing I learned most from my time at TAMIQ is the power of a single story. So in these tumultuous times, I have often turned to the words of civil rights activist Martin Luther King Jr., who said, "Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere." I repeat these words to myself in order to remind me that I have to keep fighting. I have to keep sharing what you taught me about the importance of a global perspective and of telling stories. I have to keep, in the words of Dr. Mysti, speaking truth to power and letting people know about the wisdom of the young people in Qatar. So recently I reread that passage from a letter from a Birmingham jail and found that Martin Luther King Jr. continues speaking about the importance of community in fighting injustice. He writes, "We're caught in an inescapable network of mutuality, tied in a single garment of destiny. Whatever affects one directly affects all indirectly." These are comforting words to me as someone who moved 12,000 kilometers away during a pandemic. Even though we are far apart, you and I are tied together in a single garment of destiny. I will forever treasure the ways that we did, and inshallah will continue to affect one another. In unity is our power. In sharing our stories, we create communities. Thank you for welcoming me into yours.
That was so nice. They didn't show that to me ahead of time. It's almost like she's here. Thank you, Dr. Amy, in case she's watching somewhere. From the very beginning, not the first edition volume, but from the second on, we have had a cover photo contest. So students have submitted photos, sometimes hundreds of photos, right? And then we have a committee. The committee is a little bit different every year, although the committee has never had me as a member because they don't trust my taste. I think that's the issue. So this year, the committee chose this beautiful photo by student, junior Sarah Albana, as the contest winner. And so in tradition, we like to frame it and hand it over as a gift to Sarah. Here you go, Sarah.
Am I muted? No, I'm not muted. So thank you. Thank you, Dr. Mysti. Before I go on, I want to thank Dr. Mysti for the introduction. I also would like to thank the CTL and the entire Best Writing Committee, because I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't have the opportunity to present you all with this beautiful photograph without having all the hard work that you guys have invested into this. I'm gonna put this down. So as Dr. Mysti mentioned, my name is Sarah Danna, but more often than not, I tend to introduce myself as an artist, an author, and an engineer. So today I get to celebrate all three of those things. I get to be an artist by presenting you with the photograph that I have taken, two of them actually. I get to be an author by sharing my writing with you and in Best Writing, and I get to be an engineer by being a part of the Tamil Q community. The piece that I wrote in the book and the piece that I would like to share with you tonight, it's actually inspired by the cover photo of this book. I'd like to jump right into it and read that piece to you. So you can flip through the book to the first page, or you can just follow with me. The picture, I'd just like to give you some backstory to it. The picture, I took this picture on the week that COVID started, and well, not COVID started, the week that it affected us all, and the week that online schooling started. So without any further ado, it was late on a Saturday afternoon. The date was 7th of March, 2020. I came to campus that weekend to study with some of my classmates and prepare for the impending midterm season. Little did I know, the semester wasn't going to play out the way anyone expected. We took a break from our studies and crossed the street to the farmer's market. Ceremonial court was bustling with people, as had become customary on Saturdays. We bumped into a couple of our classmates, one of our professors, and even old friends from other universities in Education City. It was a nice crossing point for the larger community of EC, and a refreshing break from the stress of academics. The weather that day was kind, as we were still making our way through spring and the heat hadn't kicked in yet. As we finished having our lunch, I stood a little longer in the hallway of ceremonial court and took a picture through the white beams of the water and the Qatari flag that waved over everything. On the Tuesday of that same week, we started our online Zoom classes, and life wasn't exactly the same anymore. Classes were no longer conducted on campus. Study groups were now a series of Discord calls and WhatsApp messages. Hanging out with friends was a combination of Netflix and screen share, and going for a walk was a trip around the backyard or the dining table. Everyday life was starting to look a lot different. I look back at this picture with nostalgia, but I still remember that regardless of this new normal, our community is as connected as the white beams that build this hallway. From the Aggies of Tamil Q, to service staff, to our professors and TAs, to other EC campuses, and even to the whole of Qatar. Our communities are connected, and so are our stories. As you read through this book, I hope you find the frame that connects our stories, whether it be through the creative work or research or literary narratives. Together, this collection composes the story of our community. So thank you all for listening. I hope you enjoy the rest of this story, and enjoy. Assalamu alaikum.
Can we give her a round of applause, please? Once again, I would like to congratulate you, Sarah, for the wonderful photo. Honestly, made me long to go back and sit in a classroom and actually learn something. Not that I'm not learning now. So as you may know, some of you may know, I had some published pieces in Best Writing before, and I'm a current Best Writing committee member. And with that, it, it kind of inspired me to say a few words. So I heard somebody once say that the CTL is the heart of the university. If that's true, then Best Writing would definitely be the soul. As a university student in my senior year, I've always wondered about the Aggie spirit, how it feels, how I'm part of it, and how it plays a role in our everyday. As someone who's had the privilege of traveling to main campus, I will be the first one to admit that this is not how this all feels like. So I ask myself, what does it feel like? And every single time, my mind comes back to one answer: this book. This book is you and me, and everyone. This book is the embodiment of our Aggie spirit. So this past year, it has been nothing short of a test about coming together. Professors and students alike have struggled and worked together to make classes work. Clubs and organizations in campus have laboriously set up events to connect to their members. We, as people, have actively tried more to talk to our loved ones and friends. All of this to convey one message: that we are isolated but not disconnected. And this book is a testament to that. We are here tonight to celebrate this book full of words, and words that have meanings, and meanings that each author has written down to share with us. I applaud their bravery and courage because it's not easy to find meaning in these troubled times. But let me tell you this: we are making history. No, but seriously, we are making history because like these stories will probably be primary sources for future readers to look back on. And with that, I would like to now proceed to the next portion of our evening, which is the readings by the author. I would like to call on Nur Ibrahim Hassan for her excerpt.
Hi, assalamu alaikum. Good evening, everyone. I hope you guys are having a lovely day. My name is Nur Hassan. I'm a chemical engineering sophomore. And today I'll be speaking about one of the pieces I have in the book, and it's called My Long-Awaited Wait. And I can speak for myself and many other people when I say that the moment we receive our university acceptance letter is when we truly feel like we are done with high school and we feel accomplished. It is such a bittersweet moment, yet all at the same time, it is exciting. This piece speaks about the moment I received a letter that would soon change a lot in my life. It was the highly anticipated letter that would tell me who I would become at the end of high school. This piece is so monumental to me as it served as a wake-up call to start thinking of who I wanted to become as a person in the following years. Hopefully, my story reminds you of the time you received your own letter and makes you reflect on the person you have become today and how much you've developed as a person. Now, every time I read this piece, there's always this one sentence that sticks to me, and I'll tell you it's because it's helped me so much throughout my life, and to this day, I still think of it. And it is, whatever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has destined for me will happen, and it is for sure what's best for me. This was something I always said to myself ever since I was young, and it is a phrase that has kept me going all my life. I hope that this somewhat helps you and reminds you that you have a destiny and you are a great person and you will succeed, inshallah. Now, I will end this with a small excerpt from my piece, and that is, food forgotten, I could finally breathe, and my long-awaited wait was finally over. My family jumped on me to congratulate me. We spent the rest of the night celebrating and being happy about this new milestone in my life. I couldn't be more happy to have parents as loving and supporting as they are, and I know without them, I wouldn't have become the successful person I am. I was now Nur Hassan, the chemical engineering student at Texas A&M University. Thank you, and enjoy the rest of the night.
Wow, thank you for that excerpt, Noor. I would like to now call on Bina for her excerpt as well.
Good evening, everyone. So my name is Bina and I'm chemical engineering sophomore. Today I'm going to recite my poem, but before that I want to talk a few words about what made me write this poem. So this poem was basically my cover letter for English 104 class, and I have written this as a memory for like the struggles from my high school to university, and also like how my English 104 class has gone up. So now I'll read my poem, which is on page 42. As I step forward, I look back and then front. I see a huge mountain that's not the same. Each time I climb a step, the distance keeps growing. When I look back at what I have written, it seems far away from where I am now. I bull-crabbed my way all through high school. Little they wanted from us, little effort I put in. A single exam they tested us on, a single day we spent on that. It seems so far away from where I am now. Walking into the English 104, I had great expectations and challenges, but I had the eagerness to try. Expectations got higher, challenges became more difficult, so I held the determination closer, walked even faster towards them, because I had so much to give. Struggles thinking about my first essay, struggles writing the first draft. Brainstorming gave no help. Turning the pages of books was of no use. This is what high school had given me. Time changes everything. Able to write continuously, able to think creatively, making movies, working on research projects, using our color pencils in university, getting innovative with our writing, drawing bicycles and ladder, a climbing wall and a river. This is what English 104 has gifted me. From writing down first experience at university to writing down childhood memories, the class brought out my feelings. Surprisingly enough, since I didn't had talked about them, but my words had the power and they spoke for my sentiments. Each piece of writing gave me the confidence. Each suggestion boosted my energy. I stand on the mountain with an angel on my shoulder, and now I am here, ready to cross the mountain to go far away again. Thank you, everyone.
Wow. Thank you for that, Bina. I can already hear Dr. Mysti shouting poet engineer on the side. I would like to now call on Lujain Walid El Shurbaini.
Hello, everyone. Sorry. Hello, everyone. So first, I would like to talk about what prompted me to write this piece. This piece's prompt was to ask myself, why am I here? I've wanted to write this piece for such a long time because I wanted to tell people my goals, and then maybe they'll be inspired to do the same. My goal in life is to make people happy and be kind. It sounds so cliche, but it's the truth. There are people out there having such a bad quality of life, and if I can help a couple of people, then I have achieved my goal. If everyone helps 2 or 3 people around the world by contributing to their lives somehow, the world will truly be a better place. The smallest of actions can make people happy. In Islam, smiling to someone is considered charity. Smiling to someone else can make their day. So don't forget to smile. This piece will always be with me for the rest of my life. I will keep editing it as I grow, because I think the more I experience, the more I'll have to say on this. This piece basically talks about why am I here and why I think I'm in this world and in other people's lives. So I'm just going to, read a paragraph from the piece. I hope you enjoy it. I'm no longer 10 years old, but I still want to be the light at the end of the tunnel. I want to be able to help every stranger I meet on the streets begging for money. I don't want to just open my wallet and hand them cash, but give them a house and find them a job, or give them an opportunity to start their own business. Giving cash to a poor person is like pouring water on the sidewalk on a hot summer day, instead of watering the plants. The poor person will easily spend the cash and go back to begging. I want to help them in a way that will set them up financially for the long run, and want to have them beg. I won't have them begging again. So that's my vision, and I really hope I can help some people out there. Thank you.
Thank you for your piece, Lujane, and keep spreading kindness. I would like to now call on Vishmi Singapura for her story.
Hello, everyone. A very good evening to everyone present here. I am Vishmi Mandira Singapura. I am a chemical engineering sophomore. And today I'm here to recite my poem, Am I? This is a very personal poem to me because since I was young, I always questioned, am I a good person? And through the process of trying to be a good person, I understood that there are struggles that good people go through, but they never come up with it because it's not a good trait. So if you have anyone who is good to you or who is a good person in general, just make sure that you take care of them because sometimes good people are good to everyone else but to themselves. So now I would like to share my poem as an honor to good people out there. Am I? Am I a good person is a question I always ask myself. Good people are liked, but they find it difficult to say no to others, to request for what should be theirs, to hurt another whether intentionally or not. They're expected to forgive and forget. They feel bad for putting themselves first, despite the circumstance. They overthink every action, with sorry being their favorite word. For the time I was good to you, I loved you. All you saw were my difficulties, but you never chose to like me. So I question, am I a good person after all? Thank you. Have a good evening.
Thank you for that, Vishmi. You really threw me to an existential crisis now. So now I would like to call on Nadine Elkholy to share her piece.
Hello, everyone. I hope you're having a good evening. I'm gonna start by talking about the reflection for this piece, which was basically my process before writing this piece. So writing is a complex journey that can only be explored through writing. I never truly understood this until I decided to observe how my writing process developed during the English 104 course. After that, the words flowed through me as if there was someone telling me a story about myself that I never knew existed. So I'll read an excerpt from my piece. You are now entering the mind of a workaholic, a cramped office with towering stacks of half-finished reports and unread novels iced with an even layer of dust. Two adjacent desks hold polished golden nameplates reading The Editor and The Perfectionist. The editor's desk chair is empty. Her metal-framed rectangular glasses lay neglected on the wooden office floor, with the end of a rope set down nearby. Your eyes follow the rope until they reach a slim woman in a pressed navy blue business suit. Her chocolate brown hair spiraled in a bun so tight that the veins on the sides of her forehead are bulging. Or maybe her veins are bulging because her mouth is taped shut and she's struggling to free herself from the snug coil of rope that has her captivated on the floor. Wriggling like a caterpillar desperate to free itself from its cocoon, the editor tries her best to get the perfectionist's attention. But the perfectionist is either oblivious to the editor's agony or contented by the circumstances. The perfectionist's perfect posture never shifts. Her modest smile never wanes. A large musty bookcase stands in front of the perfectionist's desk. You spot the worn-out trainers amidst cobwebs and dust bunnies. A figure is curled up in the bottom shelf. A head peeks out. Upon the realization of the editor's immobility, the figure's eyes widen and glow. With a scan of the office, the figure begins to climb out, stretching one scrawny leg at a time. Slowly and cautiously, the figure stands up. Then, he frantically brushes off several years' worth of dust and dirt that cling onto his disheveled clothes. He briskly walks over to the editor's desk. As he approaches, he hears a grunt. He meets the editor's squinting eyes as she lies on the floor, paralyzed. For once, the editor can't send him back. She has no power over him. She is crippled on the floor. She is frail. The opportunity could not be missed, and he knows it. And so, with a triumphant cry of freedom and a simultaneous muted wave of terror, The editor's nameplate flies across the office, colliding with an elevated stack of paper that was barely balancing, transforming it into confetti. That's all I'll read for now.
Thank you for that, Nadine. Like, totally relatable. I would like to now call on Reem Almajdoubeh to say her piece.
Thank you so much, Van. Hello and good evening, everyone. My name is Reem Almajdoubeh. I'm a petroleum engineering sophomore. Today, I'll tell you about my story, The Keys to Our House. But first, I would like to take a minute and tell you my reflection about it. So I wrote this piece freshman year in English 104 class with Dr. Amy. And she told us that we have this project where we could pick our favorite community. And I picked my favorite, which is my homeland, Palestine. And I decided to write about the struggles of Palestinians and what they go through. And to make it more personal, I decided to write about the struggles that my grandparents went through the war. So before reading some excerpts, I would like to say and dedicate this book or this story. So this piece is dedicated to the memory of all those who lost their land, home, and lives in Palestine, to all those children who have not had the chance to live a peaceful life, and to those who are still suffering from the violent oppression by the Zionist entity. They said that the old will die and the young will forget. We Palestinians are still here. We're still fighting. We're still standing with all insistence to get our country back. Palestine will be free from the river to the sea. And I would also like to read two parts of my story. Hopefully you can also check it out. So on June 6, 1967, my grandfather Hassan and his brother Muhammad were 21 years old. Being young men, they were considered the perfect age to join the Palestinian army. And therefore, the Israeli forces' goal was to take captive of all the young men. And their thought, they would be the dangerous ones, which is exactly what happened with Hassan and his brother and many other young men. They loaded the men in pickup trucks, and around 45 men were in each car. They were all on top of each other. Hassan and Muhammad were terrified. As they were walking in the hallways of the jail, on their right, they could see young kids getting beaten up by women who were in the Israeli forces. And they both knew that their turn was next. Moving on later, years passed and both of my grandparents ended up living in the same city in Jordan. So my grandfather went to Siham's father and asked for her hand in marriage. Her grandmother refused and stood in the way, but her father was okay with it. My grandfather kept trying, and they finally got married and had their own house in Jordan. Years later, they had my mother and her brothers. They're still living there with their keys to their old house in Palestine, hung on the first wall you see when you enter the house. Thank you very much.
Thank you for that, Reem. You really had me crying during exam week. I would like to now call on Murtaza Khan.
Well, first of all, thank you, Van, for letting me take the floor. I am deeply honored, first of all, for having my photographs selected for this very esteemed annual publication. And I want to thank Sara Amani for encouraging me to submit photographs for this. So the photographs I have submitted, one you can find on chapter 3, which is the famous Force of Nature statue at Qatar. And the one I wanted to talk about mostly was the photograph you'll find on the start of chapter 6, which I took around the start of this year, actually. So I was visiting the Lusail Light Festival that happens on the Lusail Marina Promenade every year. And I was with my friends, and there was this installation in which there was a vortex that was being projected in midair upon a jet of water. And it happened to be that where I was, there was just a couple that was standing right in front of it, and they were completely like mesmerized. They were totally fixated on that projection. And to me, what I could observe very vividly there was that there was a very enormous harmony between them. There was warmth and comfort, which you could just sense in the atmosphere. And to find that between two people, even amidst when there is a encircling unknown right ahead in front of you, the void, the unknown. And that was what my eyes captured first. And later my camera, of course. So my idea of photography is that, remember that the best camera you could have is actually not your DSLRs or your fancy iPhones. It's actually your eyes first. And what you see should invoke some sort of a resounding message, a story, or even just a basic emotion to you. So the photograph, in other words, is literally speaking to you. And that's what I'm usually after. That's what I want my eyes to capture first. Now, I've watched a lot of films in my lifetime, and no, I'm not talking about Avengers, because that for me is just fantasized CGI. I'm talking about Birdman here, or Children of Men, or the Grand Budapest Hotel, where literally every frame invokes something in your viewer. Now, I learned to get that essence of invoking an idea as well as my aesthetics, basically from movies. And to add to that, I got I got a nuanced understanding of the lens from which I view the world, also from video games as well, such as that of Hideo Kojima's, for example. So I'll leave you all with a very simple message, and it's very uncanny that although this photograph was actually just some pre-months, just a couple of months before this COVID lockdown happened, and the message that to me it spoke of finding comfort amongst people, amongst friends, amongst your colleagues whom you meet on a daily basis, your friends, all amidst a very encircling unknown in this pandemic, in these very uncertain times. It's actually more important than ever that we all have to be vigilant, we all have to be united, and as Van actually mentioned earlier in the start of the ceremony, to be in a connected community. Because as they say, tomorrow is literally in your hands. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you for that, Murtaza. Those pictures, TSA wink wink, field trip, question mark. I would like to now call on Ira Setyawan.
Thank you, Van. Hi, everyone. I'm going to read excerpt from my writing that Dr. Mysti picked for me. Hope you will enjoy it. 1st January 2017, first day on the job. My heart raced, my hands were shaking. I tried to hide my shaking hands under my semi-formal jacket. The elevator in the main entrance was broken. I followed the security guard as he walked up through the stairs. He was quiet and walked firmly. The stair did not help to ease my edginess. Suddenly, a loud banging hit my ears. Crap, this is not helping, I told myself when I noticed construction work in the library area. When the security guard opened the glass door, the sound of a drilling machine acted as a knife cutting my ears deep inside. The dust particles showered the area, tickling my nose. The collective body odor of the workers generated a distinct smell that increased my edginess. The security guard went through a small plastic-covered area. He finally said, "Welcome to library." I did not have a chance to scratch my nose, shake the construction dust off, and inhale the air that might help me get rid of the pungent smell. My eyes noticed the big, almost bald guy sitting at the front desk of the library. The computer in front of him looked very small. He was the only one in the library since the director and other staff were still on vacation. He handed me the form that I needed to fill in, then showed me around the building and offices that I should need to visit for signatures. I felt a kind presence from this man, but somehow the beard had frightened me a bit. At the end of the day, he handed me a medium-sized cup of Costa Cappuccino and with a big, warm smile said, "Welcome to Tamukyu Library." 7 February 2020, 3 years at Tamukyu Library. This is my 3rd year working at Tamukyu Library, minus 5 months when I ventured to try a new job. As a temporary library associate in technical services area, I work closely with technical services librarian, Sean, the big, almost bald guy that I met on my first day and who gave me a cup of Costa Cappuccino. Everyone in the library has trained and taught me in their area of expertise. However, I mostly ended up doing project with or assisted by Sean. This is the karma of the first day and a medium-sized Costa Cappuccino. He trained me how to manage the serial collection, interlibrary loan services, textbook, and Oak Trust repository. He introduced me to manga, comic created in Japan, online games, and art. And if you have seen the library front desk, you will notice art displayed there. This is all Sean doing. Remember the pencil art and the platonic shapes among many others? Yes, that is his. I usually had many desk hours per week, which allow me to meet students and staff on a daily basis. This desk hour granted me the opportunity to meet various users of the library with their particular personalities and needs. Hisa engaged me with various non-engineering topics. One time, she asked me to find resources on forensic psychology, and we ended up talking about CSI and CIS and bones. Gita enlightened me with low-carb diet. Jasim shared novels that he read, and I shared Murakami. And Beth regularly checked on me with her sincere smile and greeting. Hi dear, how are you today? Brenda shared her vacation delights and seashell treasure hunt through geocaching. And it became a daily normal to see Professor Brothers walk into the library with his deep voice saying, "Hi, how are you doing?" Sherry, with her big cup of Costa coffee and her particular voice, often greeted me, "Hi, Ira." Professor Wislow, who always waved and smiled back at anyone at the desk, made me feel acknowledged. And Professor Bellick regularly checked out magazines. These connections, no matter how light or thick, created meanings for me. I guess I will stop here. Hopefully you will read the whole story. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Ira. I do agree that we have the warmest staff. In the chats, guys, give the staff some love. So now I would like to introduce Fatimah Abhalika.
Hello, everybody. My name is Fatimah Abhalika. That's not my name, by the way. So page 71 is where my poem is at. I'm gonna read a little bit of it. I hope you guys like it. And yeah. So during my gap year, I learned so much about myself. This poem defines my inner thoughts throughout the years and how only I can change them. I can change them by making them positive. I can change them by making them positive. I wrote this poem to prove to myself that change is easy when you decide to hold your ground and accept the change. Writing is not an escape, but is a shelter. That is why I write. I was a kind-hearted angel with no venom. I was a person of happiness until the light went out. I was here when the world was shaking, then you pushed me back. I was a child of great brilliance. I was creative, I was smart, I was pretty, but now I am dumb. I am fearless, yet I am fearful. I am evil, but with you I am unequal. I am no one until I met someone. I am loyal until we were one. I am cautious, yet I am the scapegoat. I am the one and only human. Still, I am nothing but filth and pain. I am changing and abiding. I am at peace with this place. I am insecure to this day. I am alive again when I get what I want. I am dying slowly each day I am here. I am a hard worker. I'll get through this. I am failing. I'll be through with this. I am here to stay. I am gonna leave. I am intelligent. I am structured. I am learning each day. I am achieving my goals. I'm achieving my goals. I will be a dreamer. I will be a kind-hearted angel. I will be happy. I will be the smartest person. I will have a beautiful heart. I will change my life. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for that, Fatima. Very heartwarming. I now call on another Fatimah Khan, to share her piece.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Fatimah Khan, and I'm a chemical engineering senior. So I wanted to first start off with a short reflection I wrote about my piece called No Comfort to be Found. So earlier this year, I started a new habit of journaling. My journal entries consisted of short to-do lists, me documenting the remotely interesting parts of my day, or me complaining about anything that's on my mind. So when the pandemic forced us all to self-isolate, my journal entries changed drastically, as expected. And this piece was inspired through comparing journal entries from before and after quarantine. So in the beginning of the piece, I kind of talk about the things I used to complain about before the pandemic. So in particular, there's waking up early in the mornings because I had to commute to uni. So I'd have to wake up at least 2 hours earlier. And then I'd complain about this one traffic signal that would only let 4 cars pass. And then it would take about 10 to 15 minutes to turn green again. So I used to complain about this constantly, and I found that consistent in my journal. And then when the pandemic hit and we were self-isolating, the things I complained about changed, and I'm going to read you an excerpt from my piece, which I think encapsulates the comparison. So, the battle of self-isolation. Normality was cruelly stripped away from me by a global pandemic. I no longer had the luxury of complaining about waking up early and dealing with that notorious traffic signal. I was suddenly forced to live through my laptop screen. Every day turned into an undifferentiated cycle of online classes. Instead of complaining about a slow signal, I started complaining about the slow connection on Zoom. Instead of complaining about being forced to wake up early, I started complaining about not being forced to wake up early enough so that I could mentally prepare for class. Waking up 10 minutes before class wasn't a problem anymore. I could just eat breakfast in class and no one would ever know. So that was a small excerpt from my piece. Thank you for listening. Bye.
Thank you for that, Fatima. And for legal reasons, I do not have breakfast while there's lectures going on. So I would like to now call on Vanessa Lina to share her piece.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Vanessa Lina, and I'm from the Center for Teaching and Learning. I'm going to read to you an excerpt from my piece entitled Not Ready. It's actually very personal, and it reflects how I feel during this time of uncertainty. So here it goes. It's almost past midnight, and her eyes are still wide open. Lying on her bed, she stares blankly at the ceiling, wondering what lies ahead. Her husband broke the news to her a few days ago about an imminent job reduction in their company. What will happen next? Is it time for us to go home? What are we going to do if my husband loses his job? These questions keep playing in her mind. The world is in crisis, and what she thought to be concrete has suddenly become shaky. 4 months ago, everything was clear to her. She had plans. She knew where to travel next, when to start with the construction of their dream house, how many more years they will stay in this country. Because of the pandemic, suddenly, things have become blurry. Worries begin to engulf her, keeping her awake at night. Endless questions of what if and how will often stream into her consciousness. Although she always knew that eventually her family would have to leave this country they have called their second home, she's afraid this may happen very soon. Though she and her husband have prepared for the inevitable, she still feels apprehensive. Why does she feel this way? Probably because she's truly not ready. She's not ready to give up the convenient life this country has provided for her. She is dreading the day that she and her husband would lose their jobs and no longer have the financial capability to buy what she and her family want, to be able to travel abroad and collect memories, to provide for her parents' needs, and most of all, to afford a comfortable life for her children. The crisis has changed the course of the world. Everyone is feeling its impact. Many people are now losing their jobs, and some have no choice but to leave the country empty-handed. Her current situation is way better than others. Why then worry? While gazing at her kids who are soundly asleep in their room, a sudden feeling of gratitude to God permeates her soul. She begins counting her blessings. She and her husband still have their respective jobs. Her family is healthy and they have enough savings. If the situation will require them to go home, they will be okay. They may not have a huge sum of money in their bank account, but they have enough savings to start a decent life back in their home country. They just need to learn to give up some things they've been used to and they will be just fine. She has faith and trust in God that everything will be according to His plans. He will provide. At her bedside, she gets on her knees to pray. Just as she finishes her prayer, A warm feeling of peace and comfort abounds her. She refuses to look at the clock, putting everything, including the passing of time, in God's hands. As she closes her heavy eyes, she whispers to herself, all will be well. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing, Vanessa. That story really hits home. So now I would like to introduce Sabah Hanif Khan to share her piece.
Howdy. I'd like to apologize that I sound like a boy. I'm a bit sick, so I'm sorry if that will interrupt anything. Okay, so my name is Sabah, and sorry, I'm a petroleum engineering sophomore, 2023. Actually, I've always wanted to write, and to be honest, I was going to write for best writing, but we were having exams, and the whole Corona situation just, it wasn't meant to be. But then they extended the deadline, and I don't know, it was just fate, so I had to write. So my piece is about
for me, tamu.edu. tpizza.emu.edu. Yep.
Oh, okay. I'm just gonna continue. Okay, so I'm gonna read a few parts of my my piece, and then I'm just gonna fill in with my own narration. Okay, sorry. Okay. This is a very rare experience, a type of world crisis I don't think anyone expected in their lifetime. I certainly did not see this coming. Last time there was a worldwide pandemic was back in 1918, the Spanish flu, with over 500 million cases, and that lasted about 2 years. But back in 1918, you didn't have the germ theory accepted, and life was a lot tougher because a lot of people had to toughen up themselves and still go out and provide for their families. So later on, I'd like to continue and say, it's not about the destination, it's about the journey. The journey is crucial right now. The destination, being the end of COVID, will come inevitably. So it is really about what actions we take during this time period. We can come out of this lockdown mentally and physically healthier, or the opposite. For example, a very common example, the gyms, they're closed. Such a good reason to just miss out on them. But you can take control instead and gym at home. I actually, no, that's for later. Never mind. And also is something I really wanted to point out was we can further maintain take this as an advantage and spend time with our families. This is an exceptional time period. It's so perfect to form stronger bonds with our family and friends, or to repair those damaged ones. It can be as simple as just a regular conversation. And it's all fun and great. When the lockdown started, I was so happy. Two of my exams got canceled. My classes were moved to my comfort. So I was very happy, and it was going great, but then it wasn't. Oh no, not from there. Yes, from there actually. Yeah. So it's hit me, and then this is what I started to feel. Being unhappy for no reason at times at this lockdown is a real thing. At the beginning, everyone was talking about how this pandemic is affecting them. I thought, since this is not negatively affecting me in a physical way, like unemployment or have the virus itself, I thought I was all good. But boy, was I wrong. We can't forget about our mental health. Staying home like this for a long period of time can be mentally detrimental for us. That's because we aren't outdoors, and this may lead to self-isolation to the point where we don't speak to anyone, which leads to unhappiness. And yeah, that happened to me, like I said, for the third time. And it really does affect you in a not a good way. I started Netflixing, that's not a word, I know, I apologize. Throughout the days, I didn't talk to anyone. I closed myself off, and trust me, it did not go well. My family noticed my changed behaviors, and luckily I had such a good friend who called me out for this and had a conversation with me and told me, yo, this is not okay. What's wrong with you? And our conversation helped me realize that I need to go back and get out of the self-isolation circle and talk to anyone, as much as just open my video for a class, as much as that. So I did, and it did start getting better. I started feeling better, and since then I've been taking control of my own time, and I feel a lot better. And so to conclude with my last, just my conclusion, there's always a rainbow after the storm. This will end. Until this period ends, we should follow the rules and pray for all the individuals who are fighting this pandemic for us. The least we can do is help them by staying home. Enjoy this stay at home time and use it wisely, as this time may never come again and will always be remembered. It will even be missed when we're on our way to next class or getting ready to leave for work. As the saying goes, you do not know what you have until it's gone. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Saba. I would like to say that you definitely got the power. So now I would like to introduce Dr. Steve Wilson for his piece. I'm so sorry.
Thanks, Van. I'm Steve Wilson, and unlike Saba, I'm not going to apologize for sounding like a boy. And my piece is also a reflection on COVID-19. It may be a little dated, but I think it stands up. So here we go. What stands out most to me about my own experience and others' responses to COVID-19 is how it changed our views of our pre-COVID lives. For the first few weeks after the outbreak, we were frantically searching for ways to cope with living in a world of, quote, isolation. What I've seen in myself and others in recent weeks is a realization of how stressful and busy life often was before this. And I've had the conversation 5 or 6 times now about the new anxiety of returning to a busy, overcommitted schedule in the near future. As a psychologist, my goal is often to assist others in being more intentional, aware, and respectful of their internal experience rather than simply reacting to life. The positive change I'm seeing is an appreciation for a slower pace where people are finding more value and meaning in things such as cooking a homemade meal, uninterrupted conversations with loved ones, both in person and over video chat, or a good movie on the couch. For years, many of us have bounced back and forth between being too busy and being bored. Having to accept a life emptied out of most or all external commitments for months has led to a greater sense of peace for many, but not for all of us. For now, I'm staying busy with work and engaged with life, but without the overcommitted schedule and crazy traffic. The dog loves that I'm home all day, and I've especially enjoyed the extra time with my children. And I'm barefoot most of the time. I regularly ask myself this question: how could the COVID lifestyle help create a better post-COVID world for myself and for others? Thank you.
Thank you for that very warm piece, Dr. Steve. I would like to now call on Hasib Bajwa and Hayam Iqbal.
Hey, I'm Hayam Iqbal. I'm a mechanical engineering sophomore. I wrote 2 pieces, The After and Aggie's Responding, for the last chapter, Connecting Communities. My piece was influenced by many emotions, one of them being helplessness and the other unperceived ungratefulness. When we welcomed a new decade, we expected all the goods of life, biggest of it being good health. But instead, we were given the gift of patience and the realization of all the blessings life already carries. Writing this piece meant putting down the gloomy scribbles of my mind and my calm with the virus on a piece of paper, which later became my source of contemplation to understand the circumstances better and my source of motivation to rise as a more powerful individual. The thought which submerged my mind that I am sharing a story which may be looked back at, even if by myself, after years or maybe even decades to relate to or to understand the happenings of COVID was so whelming. My story is a narrative of suffering, which paved the path to make the most dauntless individuals. And to have it published in a reputed book is truly fulfilling. Thank you, and I'll pass it on to Hasib.
Hello, good evening. I'm Hasib Bajwa, Mean Junior and a researcher. I have worked with Hayam over this during this pandemic with Hayam and Dr. Bilal. And I'm sure everyone present here is tired of hearing about Corona and its impact. It's been 9 months, 4 weeks, and a day since it all began on 1st December 2019. I cannot ignore the fact that how politics played a role in the spread of this virus, and I'm not only blaming China. Just look at the US. In China, they succeeded in hiding information about the virus for weeks, and the people in the US downplayed it as some sort of flu. I cannot help but to think about our Aggie values of integrity and selfless service, and imagine a scenario where this could have been minimized, obviously not avoided, only if we were open and truthful about it from the start. I'll give you an example of Dr. Lu in China. He warned his fellow colleagues about the virus and was summoned to police station and charged with spreading rumors. 20 days later, China declared a medical emergency. In my piece, I write about how life has changed overnight. And ironically, the screens that grown-ups told us to stay away from became everything: our job, our entertainment, and our education. The productivity dropped from 30% to 4%. Days were slowly passing by, and the situation was getting worse. I'm glad that I was able to work online with my team members to make something out of these most super unproductive days. And I'm proud to say that the designs my team posted were fine-tuned, printed, and supplied to various organizations around the globe. Thank you.
Thank you for your piece, Hasib and Hayam. Hopefully we can stop counting up the days and start counting down the days till this lockdown finishes. I now introduce Ahmed Al-Nawfal Al-Tamimi to share his piece.
Howdy everyone, how are you? I'm happy to be here with you, although we are passing through challenging situations and everything shift to online platform. And honored to be with you and to see these beautiful faces, from the dean to our beautiful staff and to our future engineers. I tried to do the background, but my face be like that. So I will use the normal one. You can follow my pieces. It's not that I wrote 5 or 4. There is to Palestine, there is to a friend of mine in Texas, but I prefer to do another one, which is about love. So let's start. Usually I get encouraged with the audience. They hear my tone, not the words, but today I missed that. Let's start. أشرقت الشمس وللحين القمر مضوي، ما يبي ينام واللي يعشقه ما عرف أسراره، يا زين الأوصاف إيش قاعد فيني تسوي، مثل فلاح ما يعرف شنو أنواع أزهاره، وجهك عذوبة ماي ونظراتك تشوي، تلعوزني مثل السمك بشوفة السنارة، خفوقي كل يوم تصرخ بصوت يدوي، أعشقك عشق مغترب يبي يعود لدياره، أدعي ربي يحفظك من عدوك وعدوي، ترى قلبي بابه مكسور وما غيرك نجاره، وجودك مضاد للكورونا وللجسم مقوي، يا من صرت لسالك دروب الحب مناره، وسلامتكم. The next one is for the friend. لا تخاوي غير اللي في الشدايد مقدام، القهوة لو كانت حلوة بتفقد معانيها، درع وقت النوايب لو كنت في الشام، هذا أخوي اللي أيامه بدونه ما أدانيها، وسلامتكم. Thank you so much.
Thank you for that piece, Ahmed. I will now reinstall Duolingo so that I can understand what you said. I guess that brings us in the end of the evening. But before we move on to closing remarks, I would like everyone to open their mics and clap. Wait, before you clap, we're only gonna do this once. I wanna hear you clap so hard that I become deaf. Okay, let's go. Okay, so I would like to thank all the readers that came out tonight. and thank you for sharing your stories once again. So to close us for tonight, I invite Dr. Mysti to the virtual stage. The floor is yours.
Thank you. There is nothing I can say to follow this. And I could sense, even though we're in a Zoom room, I could sense that you all realized what a treasure this was, not just to read your own words, but to share with everybody else's. And I think we created community tonight, and I'm really, really so proud of you all. I want to return to the dedication because I was so excited about dedicating it to Dr. Amy. I forgot that I dedicated it to students, right? So in the dedication, I want to read part of this because it's really applicable to all of you student readers here tonight. Thank you for, and staff readers, thank you for trusting our community with your stories, your searching, your reflecting, and your meaning making. It is a privilege to bear witness to your honesty and openness in the middle of this pandemic. And we hope you keep writing, chronicling this time in history to show Aggies of the future just how resilient we have been and that they can be too. And I would like to point you to the back of the book because there's room to write. It says, many years from now, which of your stories about COVID-19 will you wish you would have written down? Start writing now. Well, you don't have to start tonight, but maybe by tomorrow morning, okay? So thank you all for coming. Thank you everyone for being, I'm not gonna list all the names, they're in the book, being on the cover photo competition, being on the best writing committee, submitting pieces, to the Dean for supporting this project, for Dr. Bengali for contributing to the student, scientist, and writer. And so thank you all for coming. Oh, and one more thing. We are starting a new initiative called First Year Stories. And I think Sahar is going to put a link in there. And Van, do you want to say anything about that?
Sure. I guess best writing already has the soul. I mean, there are other parts. There's also, like, you know, the voice. I feel like this is where our voices are highlighted the most. So I would really appreciate it if you would check out our new initiative at the website that Ms. Sahar will drop in the description. And I'll know because I watch the views every night. So yeah, okay. So we are at the end, and we want to take a picture of everyone here. So if you want to turn on your camera, that would be, and now would be the time. I mean, if you want to take a part in the photo shoot to get your photo shot.
Hey Van, that's it? They took the picture?
Yes, I think so. I think that's what the balloons mean, that we're free to fly away.
Hey, good job, Van. Good job.
Thank you.
Yeah, everybody. This was very, very good. Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone. You can take a balloon home with you. Take a balloon home. Well, you are home, aren't you? Yeah.
See you on the 8th edition, guys.
Okay, 8th edition.